Hello and welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. My name is Josh and I am joined by my friend and co-host Alex. And we are approaching midnight fast here on April 28th, Friday after day one of the 2023 NFL Draft. Although it's still happening, the Chiefs are on the clock currently and the Eagles just drafted Nolan Smith. But we're here to talk about the Giants drafting Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland at 24. So I want to give a couple things before we go into that. We had school today. We have school tomorrow. So we won't be coming at you with the most amount of energy here at midnight on Friday, like I said. So we are together. That's the second thing. I don't know if you could tell it from listening. The mic is in one place. So hopefully you can hear us pretty loud. I hope Alex is the best audio engineering of all time here. And you can hear us pretty loudly because it's pretty far away from when we normally talk. And if you're watching us, well, we're sitting thigh to thigh, as we said, touching toes here on this episode, which we normally don't do. It's probably like the second or third episode ever out of these like 200 something that we've done together, which is it's more convenient doing them separately. But I like the togetherness of being together here. The connection, yes, exactly. But yeah, so the Giants, they dropped down one pick from 25 to 24 and trade away to the Jacksonville Jaguars their fifth pick, or one of their fifth round picks, as well as one of their seventh round picks too. We're going to go into a little bit about what Joe Schoen said. It doesn't seem like it's going to limit his mentality to maybe trade in or out of spots in the second and third round. So it doesn't seem like this really, adjusts anything in his mindset. However, it is giving up a lot, giving up three picks. One of them only one spot back just for one spot up. It's very odd thinking, but we're also going to get into why they did that. However, I've been talking for a while. We appreciate you, by the way, for joining us, new or existing listeners, for this round one recap. Alex, my friend, my co-host, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Really excited about tonight. Pretty wild first round in terms of, for how first rounds go. This was a pretty wild one. I think the Giants have had a pretty good night. They traded, like you mentioned, pick 25, 160, and 240 for pick 24 to go up and select Maryland's Deonte Banks. Just going into the trade real quick before we talk about Banks himself.
Sure.
A lot of people are talking about, hey, that was quite a lot to trade up because the Eagles traded up from 10 to 9 to get Jalen Carter. They're having a great draft, by the way, just took Nolan Smith, which is, maybe an even bigger reason to take a center here or a more offensive lineman on day two. But what I would say is that even though they, used the fourth to move up, it was a fourth round pick to move up from 10 to 9. If you look at the trade value chart, which, I'm looking at right now, the Giants, in terms of the points that they give for each pick, the difference between pick 25 and pick 24 in terms of the point value is 20 points, and pick 160 is worth 26 points. Pick 240 is worth 1 point. So they basically overpaid by 7 points, if that's what you're looking at. And that's what most people base off these trades off of, is the point value chart. Usually the team that's trading up for a quarterback has to give up much more. If they're just trading up for a non-quarterback, then it's usually somewhere similar. So yes, the Jaguars technically won the trade, but it wasn't as bad, I think, as some people are making it out to be. And the Giants clearly wanted their guy in Deonte Banks.
Yeah, and so let's get into the pick a little bit more, right? Athleticism is the key with Deonte Banks. I think I saw he's got an 87 on NFL's Next Gen Stats, 87 overall grade, 98 out of 100 athleticism, 72 production. He's got really good size. The height and weight is not a problem with him. You might look at other cornerbacks in this draft class and you're like, Emmanuel Forbes, quote unquote. Oh, the size is a little scary. Forbes went really high in this draft, dog.
16 to the Commanders, right?
Yeah, 16 to the Commanders. So, and then you look right now, I'm interested. Actually, the Chiefs are selecting their pick as we speak. I don't know if they look cornerback and try and get Joey Porter or something like that.
Yeah, receiver possibly too. So this is actually a key pick for the Giants. But
we're going to wait 1 sec. I know obviously listening and watching, you know what this pick is. And we're like really, behind. You're like, why are you waiting until this pick happens? But this goes into my next point about Deonte Banks. So let's see who they end up actually selecting right now real quick.
Let's see. They select an edge rusher that I have not heard of.
Felix Anudike Uzuma out of Kansas State.
Well,
anyway, not the point. So this goes to my point, actually. This is part of my point. Joey Porter has fallen to the second round, day 2 of this NFL draft. Should I keep NFL Network on? I guess we should, just in case, right? Just in case anything happens. Joey Porter was not selected by the Giants, was not selected by the Commanders, was not selected by other teams that needed a cornerback in this round 1. And that is just one of a few examples of players that just fall. And sometimes we don't even know why. Tonight also, if you're looking at the QB market, Will Levis fell. Hendon Hooker, I don't know if you were, also thinking he might go day 2. I think a lot of people were thinking
Christian Gonzalez, 17 to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith, 30 to the Eagles. Jalen Carter to 9 to the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, these guys fell, but I think the big one out of all of them is Porter.
Yeah, for sure.
Going to a separate team. And the Giants having Porter at 24 and not selecting him. So they really were high on Banks. Joe Shane said that the Giants went through scenarios and the team needs and thought someone might actually take Banks at 24, trade up, so they wanted to be the ones to take him themselves. They didn't want to get greedy, was the quote Joe Shane used, and use their capital to do so. And why Deonte Banks? Well, Shane said prototypical from a size standpoint, speed, athleticism, length, 4-year starter, and is schematically a good fit. And if you looked when NFL Network panned to the Giants front office with John Mara, with Wink Martindale, with Brian Dable, and with Joe Shane, Wink Martindale looked like the happiest guy in the room at that point. Very happy to, I'm sure, have another speedy cornerback. And it's something the Giants need. This is not a pick that we were upset about. If you watch our reaction video, which is on the YouTube channel or on our various social media platforms, we said, just don't get one of those wide receivers like Hyatt and Josh Downs. And it's no offense to them. It's just a position we didn't need at that time. We need an outside guy. We don't need a slot guy, and that's what both of those wide receivers are. Sure, we need an offensive lineman like John Michael Schmitz. It might have been a little bit early to take him at that pick, and he is now available going into round 2. But yeah, it's really exciting. I'm actually happy to have Banks on this team. Alex and I talked about it. We selected him in our 1.0 7-round mock draft.
Got one right. Let's go.
We got one right. We're 1 for 1 so far. I know we're technically 1 for 3 if you want to look at it that way. But it is what it is. Yeah. This is very distracting with like the music going down. Everyone's partying it up in Kansas City, Missouri, which I don't know how much partying they do there. Actually, probably quite a bit.
Probably quite a bit of partying.
Kansas City, Missouri. It's a pretty cool city.
A little bit earlier there too. It's only 10:57 instead of 11:57.
Partying until midnight there, I'm sure. Alex, you can go ahead.
Just wanted to mention on Banks. You talked about how athletic he is. He has a 9.99 RAS score, 98th percentile in the 40-yard dash, and all the 10-yard split, 20-yard split, 99th percentile vert, 99th percentile broad jump. I mean, he is just an athlete. He's got good arm length as well, a little over 31 inches. So he just is kind of the complete package. I actually have notes on him. Thank God they picked someone that I actually scouted and had a grade on and everything. So I'll run through that. He's a really good he's got good instincts. He can recognize, he's good route recognition for sure. The athleticism is definitely the main thing with him. I think he's probably the corner with the most upside in this class. Maybe bar Emmanuel Forbes, possibly, if he was able to gain some more weight. Emmanuel Forbes going before Christian Gonzalez, by the way. I know I'm going all over the place here, but that was crazy that happened. And he presses really well as your prototypical press man corner. And he is great in press and man coverage. A couple of the cons I had for him: ball skills not really developed yet, but maybe it's Jerome Henderson, our DB coach. Hopefully can coach him up a little bit on that. Zone coverage, not exactly great either, not super polished, but Giants run mostly man and want to run mostly man in this Wink Martindale scheme. And then in run support, tackling, in run support specifically, could be a little bit better. I actually had him at a 7.4 grade, which was basically the highest late first round grade that you could get. I had Joey Porter Jr. I know you kept mentioning him, so I'll mention him at a 7.5. So very close, but I did have Joey Porter Jr. a little bit higher. What I would say is the Giants obviously felt very strongly that Deonte Banks was a better player than Joey Porter Jr. because they were out 25. If they liked both of the players, they would have just sat there and not moved up for the Capitals.
Sure.
They must have really, really wanted Banks. So that's why I'm saying it's not terrible that they traded up. It means they really strongly felt that Banks was going to be a great player for them. And if you look at Joe Shane and what he was saying, he said that the Giants board with first-round grades was getting depleted as the wide receivers were coming off the board, he said. So that means the wide receivers must have had first-round grades, which means the Giants could have been in for one of those wide receivers for those who are interested. So they didn't want to risk losing out on one of their first-round graded players. They had Deonte Banks graded as a first-round player, and they were able to get him. And I think that's an extremely positive thing. I know a lot of Giants fans are disappointed in the fact that we didn't get a wide receiver, but there is day 2 and day 3 for that. And the value just never really lined up personally. And the wide receivers didn't end up even coming off the board till pick 20 when we thought a lot of those guys would go a little bit earlier than that.
But once they started at pick 20, Alex, they definitely flew. And it left the Giants kind of struggling or scrambling, however you want to call it. And like we said, we mentioned downs, we mentioned high. We don't want either of those players as you chug your water like a madman here at midnight. And I don't blame you. We're at 12:01 here, and you're about to spit that water out because my jokes are just so funny. So what I wanted to say here, though, was Banks was the most athletic player on the board at that point. At pick 24, Banks is the most athletic player. And it's not, I was just surprised that Porter didn't go there. I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but it makes sense. I'm surprised, but it makes sense. I'm connecting my words right here. I know I'm tired.
That makes sense. I'm surprised. Wait, what did you say?
I'm surprised, but it makes sense.
But it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
So Deonte Banks, if you're the most athletic player on the board, why not go and take him? And I want to talk about Joe Shea now because I mentioned a little bit earlier. He said that he traded it. Well, obviously they traded their 5th and 7th round pick to move up a spot. It won't prevent them from trading up again if they so desire in 2nd or 3rd round. And he still believes that they have plenty of draft capital. And that was tweeted out from Jordan Ronan. So definitely something intriguing to note when it comes to, I guess, if the Giants want to trade up for people. So that leaves us to, we've talked almost 15 minutes about Deonte Banks. Do we have anything else about the cornerbacks or Deonte Banks or anything in this first round? Before we transition, I want to get all of our first round thoughts out there. Any more thoughts on Banks first, and then we can. On
Banks specifically, I think he's one of the 3 corners in this class.
He's playing across from Adoree Jackson, right? We're like 100%.
Yeah,
on that
for sure. But
then in the slot, are we going to look at or in the slot? You know what I mean, like in the inside.
Darnay Holmes right now.
Okay, right. So, and then behind those guys, you would think of Oruwariye, who we signed from the Lions, and then behind that,
Cordell Flott.
Correct.
There's definitely some room here.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
There's definitely some depth here at cornerback, and Banks, I think, besides Witherspoon and Gonzalez, who I think are surefire bets to be solid CB1s, honestly. In this league, I think Banks has probably the most upside out of any other of these guys to be a CB1 in this league. Joey Porter Jr., I think, could be a really, really solid 2, and I think he gives you a higher floor personally. But I think the Giants, you look for upside always, and the Giants did that with this pick, and you hope that your coaches can coach him up, and it could be a successful player to have across from Adoree Jackson and eventually as an Adoree Jackson replacement. Because we all know Adoree Jackson will not be here in the long run, most likely, even though he is still quite young. What I would say about the first round, I was a little bit surprised when Gonzalez fell to 17 that the Giants were not looking to trade. Maybe they were looking to trade up, right? We don't know. I wasn't in the draft room, but, at that point, I would have looked, much harder at trying to move up and really tried to do that. And then also,
of course, he goes to the Pats too, by the way, which, Giants Super Bowl foes. And, we have our best friend is a Pats fan. So that was very unfortunate, especially because they traded back and still got him. I'm sure the next thing you were going to go to was the Philadelphia Eagles just rock of a first round, as they have the past few years, having amazing drafts. And it showed in their play. Obviously, last season, we know how far they came. They were just so close to winning it all. And luckily, they did not. But getting Jalen Carter, having him fall all the way to 9, and then trading up to get him was just a very great move for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they just always seem to get there. And you look at other things in this first round. I know I kind of asked you the question.
Nolan Smith, too, for the Eagles, by the way. Probably the most athletic edge rusher in this class. So much
and they get him at 30.
Get him at 30. The Lions having the weirdest draft probably I've ever seen.
Right, that's what I was about.
Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 12.
The running back out of Alabama, when they literally have DeAndre Swift on their roster, and you told me, I was like, oh, wait, but they lost that guy from Detroit from Green Bay who came over, Jamal Williams. But Alex, you educated me and let me know that they even signed David Montgomery from the Bears. So they have two top quality sort of players there on the Lions roster, and very odd that they take Gibbs there. And then you look at some other players here.
Jack Campbell, too. They will end up taking at 18, who's consensus second or third round guy.
I mean, we ranked him as one of the top linebackers in this draft class, but the linebacker class starts in the second round. It's not a first-round talented draft. And although Campbell's definitely a field specialist, right? A tackling master. And I think when we talked about him, it was one of the linebacker prospects, and I think it was Campbell. I compared him to the tackling master of Blake Martinez when he was on the Green Bay Packers and also the New York Giants. Just every time a running back got into the middle of the field or a wide receiver was there or a tight end, Blake Martinez would make that tackle. It's very similar to Jack Campbell. I just don't know if he's pick 18 worthy. And then you look towards Will McDonald, the edge rusher out of Iowa State, getting picked by the Jets at 15. I think it's another reach. And then you look at Kalijah Kancey going to Buccaneers. I think that's a very good pick for them, an underrated one at that. And, we had him going to the Giants. And even Bobby Skinner, a friend of ours of Talking Giants, had him. And we both took our flack for it. But he ended up he didn't even make it that far. And then, like you said, so you look at the draft. You have four receivers in a row. 20, Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba. 21, Chargers, Quentin Johnston, which is very odd because they have that pairing of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And now it's a Mike Williams 2.0 with Johnston, very similar players. I believe he was actually the player comp for maybe NFL Network between Quentin Johnston and Mike Williams. Zay Flowers goes to the Baltimore Ravens, paired up alongside Odell Beckham, which I don't know how much Odell Beckham's got left in the tank, but we definitely know Zay Flowers has a lot to offer. And then Jordan Addison goes 23.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think we got everything here in this first round that at least we want to cover, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I was a little bit surprised, too, that the receivers didn't, the receivers started at 20. The Giants could have had their pick at receiver if they traded up 5 spots or 6 spots. So also found that a little bit interesting. Must have meant, kind of like me when I was looking at my CB rankings, I kind of had all of them within 0.1 or 0.2 of each other. The difference between, I think my top guy was, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, Smith and Jigba. Yeah. Which I think I had a 7.1 grade on, and then
just another slot guy though too in the NFL.
True.
But anyway,
and then to another slot guy, and Jalen Hyatt, who I think was my 6th guy, but he had a 6.9 grade. So if that shows you, I think the Giants probably thought similarly to me. I know it's like we're in the same headspace here.
Sure.
They might have thought, hey, none of these receivers are that much better than each other. Well, let's just wait and see. And then they ended up pretty much all going. And then you have Deonte Banks there. So I think this worked out well. The trade is going to be, judged poorly, I think, by the Giants fans and Giants media, etc. But Joe Shane, he got his guy, and that's the most important thing.
Wink Martindale got his guy. Really seems like from their draft room what it is.
He was excited. No hat, too, so that was a little bit odd. He took his hat off. He was so excited.
It was funny, though. It was all the guys in the Giants front office with suits and ties, and then Wink Martindale with the sleeveless hoodies.
I don't think he's ever worn a suit. I don't think he owns one.
I don't think he knows what that is. Maybe even a button-down shirt if we're getting a little bit formal there. That might be too much. Yeah. So I'm sorry, again, if you hear the paper ruffling. I do have the printout of the big board here, and it's right by the mic. So I apologize for that in advance. But I do want to take a look at some guys and do note that the Giants pick is, again, at the end of the second round. It's pick 57, so it's towards the second half there. So probably most of these guys that we talk about, I'm just going to ramble off guys that are available heading into day 2, and then we'll talk about more guys who most likely are available towards that Giants pick. Alex, that sound good? And then we can wrap this one up because it's past midnight here. I got school at 8 a.m. Okay. Joey Porter, right? I mean, that's the easiest one, cornerback. Not like we're getting him, though. So let me go off players that like actually have a chance that the Giants might get. Do we really want to talk?
Why don't you just name everyone who's still available, and then we can talk about the player.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So
cornerback Joey Porter out of Penn State. We also have tight end Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Let's flip to the other side here. Defensive lineman Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame. Brian Branch, another guy the Giants were rumored to get here in the first round. He falls to the second round. Osiris Torrance, the interior offensive lineman out of Florida. No Kalijah Kancey anymore. DeJuan Jones, the offensive tackle. 2 offensive tackles. Him and Matthew Bergeron, 2 out of Syracuse. Will Levis, someone who is
uncomfortable day for him.
Yeah, uncomfortable day and sad day watching him. They panned him, I think, every other minute there.
Not very nice.
It was not very nice at all. Drew Sanders, another top linebacker in this draft class out of Arkansas. John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, cornerback DJ Turner out of Michigan. So there are still some good cornerbacks on this list. I think I mentioned Cam Smith already, maybe not, out of South Carolina. And then I think we continue going on from there, Alex. So, yeah. I mean, I guess we don't need to list everyone, but I do want to list the guys that will be available and the Giants should definitely look at to consider at their pick. So we got the cornerback draft need out of the way. If we're sticking with the draft needs that we covered heading into this draft, left, it would be wide receiver, interior offensive line, linebacker, and
defensive line, maybe.
Defensive line. That was, I think, the 4 now that we covered.
Yeah. Running back, maybe, if there's a reach as well. So
if we're looking at that in order, obviously the first guy you look at.
Wide receiver, right? You're talking about?
I mean, it depends. What order do you want to go in?
Let's talk about wide receiver first because I know that's what everyone's going to want to talk about.
Yeah.
Josh Downs still available. Jalen Hyatt still available. Both of those guys, if they say they fall to around the 40-ish range, do you maybe see the Giants move up for one of those?
I still don't like that. Just because, again, we just talked about how we don't want slot guys. I know how good of a value they are at that point in the draft, but if they're falling, I still wouldn't risk that. I still look at someone like who the Giants have had really high hopes on, and that would be Mims.
Marvin Mims Jr. out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Jonathan Mingo as well.
2 guys that have really, out of Mississippi, Mingo is.
Yeah.
2 guys that have really been heavily
rumored
linked with the Giants. And then if they really want to wait, they don't want to get a wide receiver, I think the next area you look at is linebacker. I think there's some really good linebackers here in the second round.
Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson.
Trent Simpson, and oh my gosh,
Deion Henley too. A little bit of an outside.
There choice.
It is. Big connections there for the Giants. And then interior offensive line, John Michael Schmitz is still there. Tittman's still there out of Wisconsin.
Noah Sewell too is another linebacker. Henry To'oTo'o is another guy. They're very consistent player when he was at Alabama, and also is BJ Ojulari.
BJ Ojulari. He's edge. So. In terms of
BJ Ojulari. Why did I say it like a British accent? Sorry.
In terms of edge rushers, you got BJ Edge. Oh my God! I'm talking.
Yeah. See now
BJ Ojulari. You've got Keon White out of Georgia Tech, a very underrated player. I'm trying to think of some other guys.
Steve Avila too.
Steve Avila on the interior of the offensive line for sure.
There's a lot. I mean, Alex,
there's a lot.
This is exciting. This is really exciting. Like I think there will still – I mean, obviously, it's only the second round of the draft, right? And I guess it's an obvious statement here. But with the guys that are picked in the first round, I guess anyone could predict this. The Giants are going to have a good player at 57 to choose from. I really do believe that. No matter what side of the position it is. Okay, let's get 5 guys. You want to do that? Let's get 5 guys that if they're there for the New York Giants, and they most likely will be there for the New York Giants.
5 is a little bit too many. Let's do 3.
You want to do 3? 5 is too much? Let's do. I want to start with John Michael Schmitz. I mean, we obviously have to talk about him. We have to mention him because he was rumored to go in round 1. How far is he going to fall in round 2? That's the question that's going to have to be answered tomorrow. And I think there's a chance that he falls to 57. I don't want to say it's a very good chance, but I do think there's a chance. So I think we should rotate 1, 2.
And then also the Eagles getting 2 amazing defensive linemen. Cowboys drafting Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. Defensive line in this division is very, very strong. It's important to get interior linemen. So, like you mentioned, John Michael Schmitz, I'll throw you another one on the interior offensive line. Don't think it's going to happen, probably, but who knows? Osiris Torrance is still available. The best guard in this class, the best offensive lineman still available. And I think a first-round caliber player who's still sitting there on draft boards. So, I'll throw his name in the mix.
All right, so you got him there, and I'm going to go with the third and final guy. I'm not going to go with another.
You said you've done one.
Oh, we each give our own 3.
Oh, I was going to say that.
I like that. Okay. No, that's good because then I was saying 5 overall between the two of us. You're saying 3, so that's actually 6 if you think about both.
3.
But whatever. Okay. We have to do separate players.
Yes, obviously.
Okay. Yeah. So my first one was John Michael Schmitz.
I said Torrance.
You said Osiris Torrance. Okay, so I'm gonna actually keep going with an interior offensive line talk. Then I'm gonna go Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin. Joe Tippmann could be available even at round 3 for the Giants. It all depends of how these offense. If Osiris Torrance goes in the first 5 in the second round, and then John Michael Schmitz goes in the first 10, Joe Tippmann will probably be that guy you're going to want to take. If the Giants want to go offensive line, that you're going to want to take at 57 because he won't be there by your third round pick. So that's my second guy. So I go 2 offensive line to start.
I'm going to go Josh Downs, wide receiver. The flashy pick. Giants want to hear it. Giants fans love wide receivers. I love wide receivers. We need a wide receiver. And Josh Downs, I think, yes, he's small. Yes, he's probably more of a slot guy. But he is the best contested catch wide receiver statistically and tape-wise. When you watch tape, he is the best contested catch receiver, and he is 5'10". In this whole draft class. So I think he has potential. He's really physical considering his size. He could play some snaps on the outside. I think in a pinch, he's flexible. He's really great production at North Carolina. Really like him. And if he's available anywhere near that Giants pick, I would be very happy to see him in blue.
All right, and then my final third guy. So again, I'm just going to remind you one more time. John Michael Schmitz was my first guy. And then, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember my second guy right now. Give me 1 second.
You said Tippmann.
Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin. Yes. It's so funny. You have a terrible memory outside of this podcast. And when it comes to podcast stuff, you remember that. So I'm proud of you, Alex. Thank you for that. The third and final guy, I want to get away from the offensive line talk. Let's go to a linebacker, Trent Simpson out of Clemson. The reason I say him and not Drew Sanders is honestly I like him because he's a taller and bigger guy. Drew Sanders, I believe, is 6 foot. Trent Simpson, 6'2", 235. Let me see if I can get Drew Sanders on here. Yeah, he's 6. Wait, no.
There he is. He's 6'4".
Drew Sanders is 6'4", 235. So they're the same weight, but I don't think, it's okay, even though I got my stats wrong about the height stuff. I don't even think Drew Sanders is going to be available at 57, and I want to give you Giants fans a somewhat realistic prediction here. So I think if he's available, Trent Simpson's out of Clemson's definitely a good guy to look at. Do you want to have my big board for your third guy, or you have it locked?
I think I have my guy, and I'm going to go with a brother of one of the players on the team. BJ Ojulari, like his film, think he's an elite guy or has potential to be an elite edge rusher. I like him. Connections to the team. I don't know. I'm kind of grasping for straws with this last one, but I'm excited for day 2. I think it's going to be a lot of fun going forward and very, very interesting round 1 with, I think, some winners in the Eagles and Texans who had a very good draft and some losers, the Lions.
Nice. That was a good one there. Yeah. Nice joke. So we don't got just one round tomorrow. We got 2 rounds. And
2.
Don't worry. We're coming up on a half hour now, so we're not going to want to go. I feel like it's too far in advance to be like, who are the guys that'll be available
on
at
the third round? I have no idea.
That's a lot. But
too much for my brain to comprehend right now.
Hopefully, if all things go well, if it's not the both of us doing a video, it'll be one of us at least doing a video for the second round pick. And then probably in that video, we'll be like, okay, here's what we're looking at in the third round. We'll probably include that there as well. But we thank you so much for listening. I think this went really well, Alex. I hope maybe we can do this again tomorrow.
Agreed.
We'll have to wait and see.
Tomorrow night,
this is kind of fun. Yeah. I like this in-person episode. Yeah. This is cool.
If I wasn't so tired, it would be much better. But.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll be tired again tomorrow because it'll probably be around the same time.
Big nap tomorrow.
Regardless. But again, get ready for rounds 2 and 3. And the New York Giants selected Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland at pick 24. They traded up 1 pick for him, and they traded away their 5th and their 7th pick along with their 25th pick to the Jaguars for that. What can you do to help us out here? Well, since we're recording at around 12:30 a.m. on Friday, April 28th, it would be nice of you to give us something in return, right? Well, subscribe. That would be great on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give us 5 stars, and then hit that follow button for Alex on Twitter at Norian23. I'm on Twitter at Joshua29. And obviously the podcast, social media platforms, including Twitter and TikTok, The Giant Take Pod, and Instagram and Facebook, The Giant Take Podcast. Well, just saw the 30-minute mark get hit. Thank you so much for listening and or watching this episode of the Giant Take Podcast, and we'll be back very, very soon for another episode about this 2023 NFL Draft, New York Giants wise. See you next time. Peace. Oh, I thought we were going to say it simultaneously.
Yeah, I
but
did too. All right, ready? Let's do it again. Ready?
On one or on go?
On go. 3, 2, 1. Peace.
Wait, but we didn't say. You didn't say go. You have to say go. On go or on one?
Oh,
on
it's
one.
Way too late. All right, on go. 3,
on go.
2, 1, go.
Peace.